All right, guys, today in front of me from Barrel Craft Spirits, we have their Barrel Rye batch number 4, the Barrell Bourbon Batch number 35. To be honest, Barrell is one of the best blenders in the game, hands down. They have also put out some of the most consistent product that I've ever had. Over these last couple years, they have just put out consistently good product. Will this batch 4 rye and batch 35 bourbon continue that trend? Let's find out. All right, guys, so this Barrell Bourbon Batch number 35 comes in at 117.5 proof. Mash bill on this one is 78% corn, 18% rye, 4% malted barley. Uses whiskeys from Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee. Now, the barrels that were blended together for this batch number 35, they utilized 6- and 7-year-old spicy and earthy barrels that were combined with 8-year dark cherry and butterscotch forward barrels, then mingled in with 13-year-old fruit forward barrels. And here you go, batch number 35 from Barrel Craft Spirits. Let's get in the nose. So further away from the glass on this one, I get more spicy kind of characteristics, and then further into the glass, it is just it is very, very fruit forward on the nose. There's some apricot, there's some like raspberry kind of jam there. Further into the glass, further away from the glass, it does get like cinnamon and kind of nutmeg forward. There's some nice layers of vanilla throughout there, though, further away from the glass and then further into the glass as well. It really brings out that sweetness. So it's, it has that sweetness that's the non-fruity sweetness. And then there's also that fruit sweetness that's further into the glass. And further away, it has those spicy characteristics still. So it's, you're getting some of that cinnamon, some of that nutmeg that's further away from the glass. Absolutely beautiful nose, though. Again, there's a lot of like berry forward notes on there. Again, it's like a raspberry kind of jam. There's some apricot, maybe a little bit of like some green apple in there as well. Let's get into the palate, guys. Cheers. I love the big burst of spice on this. Definitely on the first sip, very spice kind of driven there across the front and middle of the palate. As it kind of transitions to the back, I do start to pick up like a dark cherry. Some of that apricot that I was getting on the nose starts to make its appearance there on the middle of the palate into the back as well. Some kind of like white pepper that kind of flows through into the back. It's actually kind of like a pepper mixture. Really, really nice mouthfeel on this one, though. Again, it got a little drying there on the back of the palate, but that spice just kind of continuously kind of flows through into the back. Let's get into this second sip, guys. Yeah, something on the middle of the palate there just reminds me of like this spice cake. So I do get some fruitiness on the front, like some a little bit of like some tart cherry there on the front of the palate, mixed with like some orange kind of marmalade there. So you got this cherry kind of orange flavor going on the front of the palate. Middle of the palate, there's some of that apricot still kind of making its appearance there. Some of that cherry kind of flows through as well. Slight bit of rye there that sits across the palate, but that spice cake is really just is what's getting me on the center of the palate there. Then as it transitions to the back, that apricot's still there, still getting a lot of nice kind of some it's actually like a sweet oak, but it's spicy as well. And then some of that spice really kind of kicks in on the back of the palate. Some of that that pepper, some of that little bit of that earthiness as well. But yeah, I mean that is a really it's pretty balanced. I will say that. I feel, even though there is a lot of fruit dominating the palate, I still feel like there's a little bit more spice than there is fruit on this one. And not that it's a bad thing. I actually enjoy that, because sometimes some of the batches can get a little fruit forward rather than more spice. This one I feel like offers a little bit more spice than it does fruit, but still pretty well balanced. Let's get the last sip, guys. Cheers. They do such an amazing job blending these barrels. I mean, there's so many flavors that are just like continuously kind of popping up on this thing. Like I get these like sweet kind of hints of toffee now on the front of the palate with like that cherry and then like that orange kind of marmalade. It's like this butterscotch kind of like toffee kind of intertwined in there with that like that sweetness. Then across the palate again, that's kind of where like this spice cake just kind of dominates. Don't get a lot of sweetness on the middle of the palate. I mean, it has a really nice finish on this one. I will say that. I think with it being a little spicier than normal, I think that's really benefiting that finish. It's really, this is a long finish for me. And again, a finish is one of the biggest things that I look for. And first sip for me, it was a medium. It's definitely a long finish on this one. The spicy kind of characteristics really just continue to pull down and pull through on this one. Beautifully blended bourbon here by Barrel Craft Spirits. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get into the Barrel Rye batch number 4. This one comes in at 115.7 proof. Mash bill on this one is 89% rye, 7% corn, 4% malted barley. And this one has distillate from Indiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Canada. So this blend consists of 10-year-old Indiana Rye barrels that were blended with 5- and 6-year-old spice and fruit-forward barrels, and then blended together with 14-year-old Canadian barrels. Let's get in the nose. Really nice combination of having some more bourbon characteristics on the nose. Like you do get a lot of that caramel, some of that like vanilla, but then you're also getting some of those rye characteristics. Like you're getting some of that lemon peel, and you're getting some like a little slight hint of clove, but also a little bit of mint there as well further into the glass. So the mint starts to make a little bit more of an appearance now that it's opened up a little bit, but then further away, I do start to pick up like some green grape in there, and there's a slight. It starts to turn a little tropical there too, further into the glass. Really nice nose, guys. Get in the palate. Cheers. This rye definitely stands true to what it is, and on the notes they talked about having some of that that smoke that kind of influenced some of these barrels, and I definitely get that on the back of the palate. On the front of the palate, again, you're starting to get some of that lemon peel. You get a slight hint of mint, but not too much. On the middle of the palate, some of that green grape does actually start to make an appearance there. Rye spice definitely on that first sip hits you there on the center of the palate, and then the back of the palate there is that slight hint of some of that smokiness that they were talking about, that they were able to pull some out of some of those barrels. It's just that the finish was a little bit on the shorter side on that first sip. Let's get in the second one. See, now on the front of the palate, more of that like lemon lime is really kind of starting to make its appearance there on the front of the palate. Rye spice on that second sip definitely died down, but still like there is some green grape kind of influence there across the center of the palate there. You do get that fruitiness. I don't feel it transitions all the way into the back. I feel like you get that more on the front of the palate on this one, and then more of those spicy rye characteristics. A little bit of that green grape maybe makes its way back into the back of the palate and through the finish. Again, it's the finish is more on the shorter side, maybe short to medium, maybe hitting that medium. I wish it had a little bit more of a finish though, but I do like the layers and complexity of like the flavors that I'm getting here, because they really start to kind of hit the palate in different areas that I'm not used to. Let's get in the last sip, guys. Cheers. There's the dry herbs there on the back of the palate. Dry herbs on that. So I really didn't get any of that on the first and second sip. Definitely got it on the last. Really got very herbal there on the back of the palate. Not too medicinal, but definitely a lot of like baking herbs and stuff like that started to make its appearance there. But still, I think this one offers a lot of really nice layers on the palate. And again, like I feel like this one is something that you can kind of sip on and it will continuously evolve. I wish it did have a little bit longer of a finish on this one. It was on the shorter side, almost hitting that medium finish. But the layers and complexity of this rye are really nice. I do love how they incorporated some of those Canadian barrels into this one. But again, hell of a job here by Barrel Craft Spirits. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. I want to give a big shout out to the team over at Barrel Craft Spirits for supplying me with these bottles here to review on the channel. Guys, again, Barrell just knocking things out of the park. Their blending capabilities are second to none. I think, again, when you talk about companies that put out consistent product, you cannot look past Barrel Craft Spirits. They have consistently done amazing things with their blending capabilities over the last couple years. Knock things out of the park. They win medals all the time. I mean, this one won, gold in the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, the Batch 35. And there's a reason for that. It's the way that they're blending these barrels. It's how they blend these barrels. Their expertise when it comes to it. Again, their blending capabilities are second to none. They do a fantastic job with their ryes, their bourbons, their whiskeys, and all the other stuff they kind of dabble into. Big shout out to Barrel Craft Spirits, again, for sending me these bottles to review on the channel. Guys, if you're looking for more reviews like this, hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. Till next time, guys, stay dusty.